Hey, this is Tom and Callum from the Fresh 92.7 Brekkie Show in Adelaide.
Our hero, Sean Craig Murphy, has us listen to the Quarter Hour podcast after every show and record an intro every day.
Callum, I really hope this one makes it in. I don't want the whip again.
No, Sean.
No, Sean.
No, Sean. No. Not the whip.
Not again.
Not the whip. No.
Thanks, boys. That is wonderful. Well done on the job you're doing. Hello, dear listener. Welcome to the Quarter Hour. Today, Jackie O quits her podcast and top 10 talent coach Steve Reynolds. I'm going to introduce you to someone now who is a dear friend of mine and is one of the world's best talent coaches in radio and audio. And when I first met him, he told a story about becoming friends with a porn star. That's a total story for another time, because today we're talking about another type of friction. I think that's a good segue. Steve Reynolds. Hello, Steve from Raleigh, North Carolina. How are you?
Hello. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well. Can we save the porn star story for another time? Because we've only got 15 minutes today.
Why not? Absolutely. Let's tease people in several different ways. That I have a friend who's a porn star, and how that came to be is quite fascinating, but for another time.
And it literally was the first words I ever heard come out of your mouth. So I'm glad we had a friendship since then. Hey, I want to talk to you today about a great blog post you wrote on your Planet Reynolds radio blog, which we'll give a proper plug to at the end. But I want to talk about a topic that I thought was really interesting. And that was based on, of all things, heated rivalry. The, I guess you just describe it as the gay hockey show, is probably how we would colloquially talk about it. Which is all about a relationship in the world of professional sport. And the content title of your blog post was Friction Hooks Fans. And there are 4 key things that you said in there, which I think is great advice for any broadcaster about friction. Let's start with number 1. You said you want to find the tension in everything and let it breathe. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's very important. Great screenwriting, great radio, care about the characters. And characters don't exist if you don't have a conflict and tension, a contrast, if you will. And, these characters sit in discomfort. I mean, they argue, they hesitate, they contradict themselves, they show their flaws. There's a difference between their public persona and their private persona. Their public persona might be about perfection, but deep down inside, and we get to see this in the show, they're deeply insecure. They're messy individuals. And that to me is fascinating. We're all messy. We all hide it. Right. And I think vulnerability is immensely powerful. And then when you can reveal who you really are, then you start to click and bond with people. Great radio is about conquering content and creating connection. And nothing makes connection more than saying, I'm flawed, I'm weak, and I'm going to show that to you because I'm okay with who I am. I have a friend. I don't know if you know in the States, a gal by the name of Lori Lewis.
Yes, I do.
She's wonderful. She has said some brilliant things that I wish that I had said, so I steal them, but ethically I give credit. She said to me once, unpolished is the new polished. Yeah. And to me, I mean, I've never forgotten, it's the most powerful thing she ever said to me, that we want to see people unpolished. We don't want to see perfection. And if you can do that, if you let the audience hear the wrestle in your life, if you can say, I'm not quite sure about this, and show those flaws, the audience will run to you. They won't run from you. They will run to you.
Yeah, great. I think that used to be called relatability, but I think relatability is sort of being hijacked as a word in radio. You have to be relatable at the expense of being entertaining, but it definitely is at the heart of entertaining and engaging people. Okay, number 2 was you said that stakes make stories sticky, which is a tongue twister, so I'm going to say it again. Stakes make stories sticky. What does that mean? Right.
So, conflict is the driver. Tension is the driver of memorability. If you don't have any stakes in the story, if you have no drama in the story, it's just an anecdote, and that's boring. Stories with stakes and the things you're wrestling with make people lean in. I always tell the talent that I work with here and abroad that if there was nothing on the line in the story, big or small, this is not large stakes, it can be small stakes. If nothing was on the line, then the story will never be memorable. If you have no drama, if you have no tension, if you have no, the word I use now is friction. Yep. If you have no friction in the story, then why tell it on the air? It'll be boring.
Yeah. Okay. Good call. All right. Number 3 is vulnerability beats likability.
Right. So the leads in Heated Rivalry are not always likable, but they are emotionally honest. I have found in my tenure that I have to unteach some things because radio personalities tend to want to chase approval when they should
Really?
be actually.
Well, hang on, just stop. That's a
Yeah, I know.
shocking headline.
It's a newsflash, right? They try to chase approval, and they should be actually chasing truth. Like, what's your truth? And sometimes some are so fearful to show it that you have to take that. I find when I take fear away from the conversation, I make them incredibly comfortable so that when they can say on the air, I didn't handle this well, I'm not proud of this reaction, I don't understand that. I mean, vulnerability to me is the shortcut to credibility. And when you do that, when you establish credibility and you do that enough over time, I mean, none of us show up and just blah, here I am. It's done in stages to build that relationship, but credibility leads to what? Trust. And when you build trust, well, then you become valuable to the brand, not just in ratings, but also in revenue.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Now, here's the big one. This is number 4 on your list, but like you're such a great storyteller, even in your writing, this is the one that actually hooked me in the most. Conflict doesn't mean chaos or arguing. Now, I think a lot of people who are broadcasters or podcasters think that you need to have a conflict or an argument in order to create that friction or chaos, but you say no. Why is that?
Right. I've stopped using the word conflict. I don't. I wrote a companion blog to it that came out this week, and it's about finding friction in stuff. The friction of everyday stories. Conflict, I think, defined by the typical person, is an argument. And so, let's change the word to contrast. Conflict doesn't mean yelling or controversy for its own sake. It just means contrast. Opinions collide, expectations aren't met, internal debates are spoken out loud. That kind of friction creates texture without alienating people. I'll give you an example of this. You're Australian, I'm American, and that's contrast.
Right.
We will, and because we are friends, we see some things the same way, and that's okay for the air. But there's contrast inside of us where we'll see things completely different, and that's interesting to lean on and lean into. I say that it's often used phrase, but interested people are interesting people.
Yeah.
If I'm interested in what your take is on my country as an Australian, and I'm open to that, that could be a very fascinating conversation that others will want to hear. Connection is not built on being smooth. Connection is built on being real under pressure. And you've got to see those things in your life and be okay with who you are and bring them on the air. And then all of a sudden, people will want to hang out around you because you are the most interesting person in their life at that moment. And most people don't have that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think too, if for programmers or content people who are trying to work out how to bring the friction into a show, intentionally, so it's not an accidental friction, like let's put these two people who disagree on everything in a room and let them go at it. It's more like, how do we bring about those contrasts?
There was a show that I worked with here in the States for a long time that we believed that there was a new talent on the show, and I worried at one point that she was being positioned as perfect. She had the perfect marriage, she had the perfect wedding, we had a trivia game, she never lost. And I'm like, people don't bond with perfection. People bond with flaws. So we made a course correction. Today in her market, she's probably the most powerful and popular female talent in the market, because we were really careful to understand that if we position her as perfect, people will run from that because deep down inside, they don't identify with it.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense. And that sort of where I was leading was when you're sitting down with talent or with programmers and they say this, well, how do we create that contrast or how do we do that course correction? And I know this is some of the coaching work you do with the top 10 talent. Is there some hack or something that you could give to people where, if nothing else, then just think or start like this?
I challenge everyone. Everyone that I work with, they do journals. I'm sure that's it's a standard fare for talent in Australia. I say you're the most interesting to me from Friday when you leave your radio station until Sunday night. That's when you're off doing your thing. So I have every talent that I work with send me weekend journals. And so Sunday night is my worst night for email because I'm laying on the sofa watching television and ping, 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 everyone's sending their journals. And they're telling me about the everyday things that they did over the weekend. They went shopping for a new washer and dryer. They did a DIY project. They laid on the sofa in their underwear watching a football game. And they tell me all of this stuff. And I'm deeply fascinated by it. And what I do is I get inquisitive as the person not living it. Everyone thinks they lead a boring life. And then I find the friction inside of that. What does your wife think of you laying on the sofa watching football in your underwear all day? And then I get a rise out of them, and that's conflict, that's contrast. And I'm like, and then it becomes funny, and I'm like, I have permanent content brain. I'm like, that is a real life break for your show on Monday morning that the audience will connect with. I think we have to be purposeful in not only aggregating what we do, but giving it to someone else. Because if I give my weekend journal to Wade Kingsley, you will see things that I completely miss because it's me, and you're a curious person. That's one of the reasons I adore you. And you'll start peppering me with your questions out of your curiosity, and all of a sudden there's content.
Yeah, gotcha. I love that permanent content brain. Is there a surgical procedure you can have done to remove it? Or
you just have to keep at it. I hate to say that I have it, but there's no experience I have where the friction of that experience doesn't become very apparent to me. I don't think, how do I get this on the air? And most people miss that in their own lives because they're so close to it. So I challenge people. There's a worksheet in the companion blog that I've written. People can go download it from my website, where it's really simple. Where'd you go? Pay attention. The power of paying attention to the everyday things and the little teeny tiny points of friction that you endure could become the reason for you to do that as content on the air, to be relatable and connect with the audience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We've got a comment from Spencer Housen who said that contrast story about the Sunday night journals, that's a great technique for helping talkback callers to be great storytellers as well.
Yeah. One of the things I say, and this is what I work on in my weekly gatherings with shows, is that if you do a journal and then you send it to everyone, depending on the number of people we have in that meeting, I could have 5 different perspectives, 5 different curious people asking you questions about why did it take so long to do the DIY project. And all of a sudden, isn't that better than an evergreen generic piece of content the audience will shrug its shoulder with? And when you dig deep, you are an original.
Yeah, that's great. Steve, where can we find your blog?
ReynoldsGroupRadio.com. It's Planet Reynolds. Just go halfway down to the page and click on the right, and they're all there. And I think the one that's current, and the one which is the power of paying attention, and the one that you noted, Friction Hooks fans, they're both there. Click on them, and I hope it means something to you. I hope everyone elevates from it.
Thanks, Steve. We'll definitely get you back on to talk about more of your interesting thoughts around being a top 10 talent coach and what you've noticed. Thanks for coming on today.
And the porn story.
Well, good hook. See, a permanent content brain is always looking for the hook as the out. So we'll leave it there. Thanks, Steve. Okay, some quick liner notes to finish us off today. Jackie O has quit, not her contract, not ARN and Kiss. She's quit her podcast, Her Best Life, that she does with her bestie Gemma. She's just decided that she wants to keep a little bit of information for herself in her own life and not be sharing every single thing with the world. So Jackie has done that. A couple of quick shout outs. I think the iHeart Live that has been announced with Jacob Elordi and Marco Robbie, are there 2 hotter personalities, celebrities on the planet right now? Probably not. 100 listeners get to go and watch Smallsy interview them and obviously get photos and stuff. So that's a great use of iHeart Live, not just as a music property, but as a fan connection property. So that was awesome. Good to see that happening. The Australian Audio Awards, 1 month to go to get your entries in. There's lots of different categories. Check them out online. And of course, they're sponsored by Acast as the headline partner this year. And finally, become a P1 of the Quarter Hour. Please do. I've had lots of people jumping on and wanting to enter our Harry Styles contest, which of course is just for radio people. And I'll give a couple of quick shout outs to some of our P1s. He says, looking for his piece of paper. G'day to Scott van der Linden. G'day to Simon Owens, Kelly Glover, Emily Copeland, and Jamie Rowe from Magic 1278 in Melbourne. Thank you for joining me once again on the Quarter Hour. Next week, a Super Bowl special. How to take an AM frequency into a multi-platform sports brand. I've got the exclusive story. I'll tell you about it next week. That's been The Quarter Hour.